March 18th. I don't know if anyone even noticed, but I needed a few days off, so I took them. But I'm back and want to introduce you to some of the hottest science there is right now, the Anthrobots. Anthrobots are biorobots that possess self-assembly capabilities and more. They are a product of Professor Levine's lab at Tufts University. He and his team first created something they called a xenobot. For that, they extracted skin cells from a frog embryo. The resulting cluster happily moved around by propelling itself forward. Some of the professor's own craft called his creation a nothing burger row, because embryo cells are known for omnipotence and skin cells of amphibia have their own special properties that might lead to the result. Professor Levine accepted the challenge, and for their next biorobots, the people from the lab chose to start with trachea cells of adult humans. These cells' only job in a human body is it to move mucus up from the lungs. As anthrobots, these little critters are able to take what their environment supplies them with, mostly carbon dioxide, and employing parts of their inherited from the donor DNA, parts trachea cells usually don't use, to autonomously configure themselves into various forms and dimensions. In literally the very first experiment to test their capabilities beyond being cute, they showed the astonishing ability to mend damaged neural tissue. I bring this up here because it's incredible, and we should acknowledge it as such. Once we are done with that, though, we should also take a step back and realize what's going on here. First of all, it's a prep talk for all of us. We are talking tracheal cells, liberated from their environment and given the chance to reboot their multicellularity. They might help one day to make a paralyzed walk again, or will allow us to build bridges and homes or grow clothes according to our designs from carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. It shows nature creates bottom-up from the middle-out problem-solving machines and not solutions to single problems. That's each of us, too, if allowed and enabled, first and foremost by ourselves. Then, these anthrobots are new complex systems. And this new complex system has a huge number of novel competencies. Nobody, not even Professor Levine and his team, had any way of guessing at the beginning. Because we don't have the science of understanding what goals and what competencies a complex system will have when we build it. Worse, more often than not, we build new complex systems from swarm robotics and the Internet of Things to social structures and financial institutions, and we don't even give a thought to the plasticity that exists, not even to mention accepting responsibility and taking charge of controlling the results that inevitably show up. Take Twitter as an example. I bring it up here because I was just informed that I had my Twitterversary. I joined Twitter very early on, in March 2009 or something like that. It's a self-organized complex system. When you break it down, the users are self-interested agents that try to survive and get their rewards for their actions by similar self-interested agents, what leads to a learning process, as incremental as it may be. It's sufficient enough, though, that in the aggregate, these users can learn arbitrary computational functions, as well as effective enough so that the users can converge on the functions that they need to, as a group, to reap rewards that apply to the whole group. It's all a way to say that you strive by accumulating likes and shares and by adding followers while becoming a follower and handing out likes and shares. In theory, it amplifies all the voices in the group and gives the group as a whole more influence, the reward. It's much how our brain cells form our consciousness. There's a perception, and when data is added by enough cells that it passes a threshold, and we, as a whole, become aware to react. And that without meaning to, made Twitter the closest thing we had to an artificial brain. It was mostly still at the bubbly stage, you know, when babies bubble, with bubbles of sentience. What was needed to develop it further into a global brain was a centralized structure with distributed rewards, like, for instance, the dopaminergic system does in the human brain, in a centralized, top-down manner. But this system had to take into account that every regulation has an optimal layer where it needs to take place. So a search for the right equilibrium needed to take place. But no one wanted to take responsibility for the unexpected consequences of forming this new complex system. It was in the end sold to Elon Musk, who wants to make Twitter his brain used by the users as extensions or substitute of their own brains to create their reality to his advantage. Think so we can create complex structures whose power we can harness for all. Make a habit out of thinking. Turn thinking into a movement, a new complex structure itself. Like, comment, share. And as always, thank you for gifting me with a few minutes of your most precious, your lifetime.